Hello everyone, welcome to the session of Breathing and Exchange of Gases, NCERT exercise part 1. So today we are going to solve the NCERT exercise. Disclaimer. Today's session learning objective, we will explore and understand the fundamental concept of the chapter 14, Breathing and Exchange of Gases, by working through the NCERT exercise. So by solving the NCERT exercise from the chapter Breathing and Exchange of Gases questions, you will be able to understand the core concept, right, of this particular chapter. Index. So there are, in today's session, we will solve question number 1 to question number 8 from the chapter 14, Breathing and Exchange of Gases. And here is the first question. Define vital capacity. We have to define the vital capacity, right? And what is its significance? We have to tell about the significance of this vital capacity, right? Now, this question is coming from the NCERT section 14.2.1, right? That is the respiratory volumes and the capacities. Okay, let us see the answer of this question. So what is vital capacity? Maximum volume of air exhaled after the minimum inspiration. That is the vital capacity. The maximum volume of air a person that can breathe in, that can take the oxygen, right, when it breathe in, and after a forced expiration, right, force, there is a forceful expiration process is there. So this includes, what this vital capacity includes? ERV. What is ERV? Expiratory reserve volume, right? ERV, TV, that is tidal volume, and IRV, inspiratory reserve volume. So three things, when you sum up, you get the vital capacity. So maximum volume of air exhaled after maximum inspiration. Two things is there. You have to first thing you have to do maximum inspiration with the forceful, right? And then there will be the maximum volume of exhalation also. So, components of the vital capacity. Let us see that. IRV, inspiratory reserve volume. TV, that is the tidal volume. And ERV, expiratory reserve volume. I hope you all know that what is the reserve volume. So, I'll again tell you what is the inspiratory reserve volume. A person can inspire by a forceful inspiration. When you do normal inspiration, okay, that is not the thing. But when you do the forceful inspiration, with the force you inspire, then it is called as inspiratory reserve volume. And what is the volume of that? It ranges from 2500 ml to 3000. 2500 ml to 3000, right? Now, what is the tidal volume? Tidal volume. Tidal volume is the volume of air that inspired or expired during the normal respiration. Normal respiration, that you do not apply any force at that particular time. So that is the tidal volume, right? And it is approximately 500 ml. It is 500 ml, right? What is expiratory reserve volume? A person that can expire by the forceful expiration, that is the expiratory reserve volume, and it ranges from 1000 to 1100 ml, right? So this is all the three definitions that we have already covered up in our theory class. And inspiratory reserve volume, that is plus tidal volume and expiratory reserve volume, when you sum up all these volume, you get the vital capacity. Then you get the vital capacity. Now, normal range. What is the normal range of this vital capacity? Normal range of vital capacity is around 4 to 4.6 liter in case of adult. So here you can see, sorry, here you can see the tidal volume. In the graph, you can see inspiratory reserve volume. So here it is around 2500 ml, inspiratory reserve volume, right? And there is tidal volume, that is 500 ml. And there is expiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume. So when you sum up this 2500 plus 500 ml, that is the tidal volume, that will become 3000 ml. And again you sum up this 1500 ml, right? So it becomes 4500. So it is in the range of 4 to 4.6 liter as it is mentioned in the text. Okay. Now, clinical importance, how it is important to us is it evaluates the lung function, how your lung is functional or not. It gives the idea of that. So when you go for your test for the clinical diagnosis related to the lungs function, so if it is measured, if this vital capacity is measured and it is not coming to the range of 4 to 4.6 in any adult, then it is considered that there is some problem related to the lungs, right? So it is actually evaluating the function of the lung. It tells about which part of the lung is not functional, right? Which of the type of capacities you are not getting the actual range of the volume, right? So help in clinical diagnosis. So it is helping in the knowing the function of the lungs with the clinical diagnosis. Indicate respiratory health, and in that it tells about how your lung is, what is the health of your lung, whether it required any medication or you are healthy, or any like proper breathing exercise you required. So that will be prescribed by the doctors. But this is the way to know whether our lung is working properly or not, right? So that is why these vital capacity, measuring of these vital capacity is very, very important. And to know the vital capacity, you have to measure the three different things, that is inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, and tidal volume. In the graph you can see, this inspiratory reserve volume is here, tidal volume is here, and expiratory reserve volume is here. Three things. When you sum up, you get the vital capacity, right? Okay. So we have completed the first question. Now let us move to the question number 2. State the volume of air remaining in the lungs after normal breathing. So what type of air, volume of air that is remains when you are doing the normal breathing? So this question is again coming from the same section, NCERT section 4.2.1. Let us see the answer of this. So the functional residual capacity, this is the volume of air that remains in the lungs when we are doing the normal breathing process, when we are going through the normal breathing process. So functional residual capacity, FRC, is the volume that remain in the lungs after normal expiration, right? Functional residual capacity. So here you can see on the graph also the functional residual capacity. What is that? The volume of air that will remain in the lungs after a normal expiration. So this includes ERV and RV. ERV. So here it is ERV, expiratory reserve volume, and residual volume. So what is the residual volume? RV. Residual volume is the volume of air that remain in the lungs even after a forceful expiration. Even after the forceful expiration, when you forcefully expire, but still there are some air that is left in the lungs. Your lungs never become opaque, means some air is still left if you do the forceful expiration, and that air is called as residual volume. See the volume that is there. It is around 1500 ml it is given here. So when you add it, ERV and RV, this part ERV, that is 1500 ml, and RV, that is 1500 ml, it become 3000 ml. It become 3000 ml, right? Functional residual capacity, ERV plus RV. Okay. So expiratory reserve volume, what is that? 1000 to 1500 ml. It is variable. It is variable. So it is, the range is given here, 1000 to 1500 ml. Residual volume 1100 to 1500 ml. So we will add up the this one and one, the highest range 1500 ml and 1500 ml. So that gave rise to 3000 ml. 3000 ml, right? So normal value, that is around 2500 to 3000 ml. This is the range that we get for the functional residual capacity. So this graph is very, very important. Sometime in the examination, the graph can be given and on that question can be asked. It can be mentioned just A, B, C. You have to tell which part of the graph is your what type of capacity, right? So with the help of this, you can able to find out which type of capacity it is asking, what is its volume. So this graph is very, very important. Okay. Okay. So we have completed the question number 2. Now we will take the second question, third question. Diffusion of gases occur in the alveolar region only and not in the other parts of the respiratory system. Diffusion, in which part of the alveolar region the exchange of gases take place, means diffusion is taking place, right? So, and why? The question is why? NCERT section 4.4.1 is there, right? Let us see that. Let us see the answer of this question. Diffusion can occur throughout the respiratory system, but it's most efficient in the alveoli. It is most efficiently. Diffusion is taking place throughout the respiratory system, right? But it is efficiently happening or taking place in the alveolar region. Alveolar region. Let us see why. The alveolar region has a specialized structure for the diffusion process to occur. They have a specialized structure so that the diffusion can be occur properly. What is that specialized structure? 3-layered diffusion membrane. 3-layered diffusion membrane they are having. The very first, alveolar squamous epithelium. Now, the wall of the alveoli is made up of the squamous epithelium layer, very flat, thin, membranous layer. Capillary endothelium. Now, throughout the alveolar region, at the outer surface, you can see they are having the blood capillaries running over it, and blood is flowing inside it. And when you see the layer or the wall of this blood capillaries, it is made up of capillary endothelium cells. Endothelium cell, that is again a type of squamous epithelium. In between this alveolar squamous epithelium and basement substance, what is present? In the basement substance, what is present? In these two regions, between the squamous epithelium and capillary endothelium, basement substance is present, right? So here you can see, this is the alveolar region, the wall of the alveoli, that is made up of the squamous epithelium of the alveolar wall, and it is just one cell thick. It is not very thick, it is single layered thick, one cell thick, right? And you can see the blood capillaries is running over it. This is the alveoli, and blood capillaries is present all over this alveoli region, very close to it. And in between the squamous epithelium of the alveoli and endothelium cells of the blood capillaries, basement substances are present. So it is not a membrane, basement substance is present. So very thin layer it is actually, and the gases diffusion can take place through this thin layer, right? Now, membrane characteristics. So they are talking about the what type of membrane, what is the exact characteristics of the membrane. So extremely thin, very thin, it is less than 1 mm, less than 1 mm. Highly permeable. So permeability through this is very high. The gases exchanged through this is very high. Optimized for gases exchange. If the membrane becomes thicker than this, then there will be the gases exchange will be affected. But at this particular level, if it is around 1 mm thick, then it is favoring the exchange of gases, right? So again, the figure is that. So this is the figure that shows the alveolar region and the diffusion of gases taking place. Now this alveoli, which is a balloon like structure, it is actually increasing the surface area, right? And they are having the air filled in it, and when the air is filled in it, they are always having some moisture, because water vapor is the part of the air. And not only that, when the air is moving from our nostrils, passing through the trachea, passing through the bronchi, bronchioles, then again the water vapor is added to it, right? So it is having water vapor that makes it always moist, and when it is moist, it is supporting the gases exchange, right? Okay. Comparison with other areas. Other respiratory parts have thicker membrane. If you see the other parts, we are not talking about the alveoli now. Now let us see the bronchioles. Okay, there are different levels of bronchioles. Okay, level 1, level 2, like this, and ultimately it reaches to the region where it having the balloon like structure, that is called as alveoli. So if you see the different levels of bronchioles, there also some gases exchange takes place, but not at the level of alveolar region, right? So they are less efficient for gases exchange because they are having thicker membranes. The cells are having thicker than you see in the case of alveoli. Not specialized for diffusion. So this layer is not specialized for diffusion because it is not as thick as we have seen in the case of alveolar region, around 1 mm. It is thicker than 1 mm. Okay, now let us see our next question. The next question is, what are the major transport mechanism for carbon dioxide? Now we are talking about only carbon dioxide. Transport mechanism for carbon dioxide. Explain. Explain. So NCERT section 14.42. This question is coming from that particular part. Okay. Now let us see the answer of this question. Major transport mechanism for carbon dioxide. Now let us see what are the different major transport mechanism for carbon dioxide. The first one is here. Dissolved in plasma. Dissolved in plasma. So some part of the carbon dioxide which is produced in the tissue after the many like catabolic activities, okay, that produces the carbon dioxide. Respiration is there, one of the catabolic activity. Actually it is an anabolic. When we will study the next respiration process in plants, then we will able to understand that particular part. But yes, there are different activities that is going on in the tissue that produces the carbon dioxide. Now that carbon dioxide, when it reaches to the blood, how it is transported? The first thing, some carbon dioxide get dissolved in the plasma. It is 7 to 10%. It is 7 to 10%. Simply dissolve in blood plasma. So here we see that it is simply dissolved in blood plasma. Right? The blood get dissolved in the plasma, which is, what is the percentage of plasma in the blood? 55%. 55% of this liquid substance is present in the blood. So that carbon dioxide get dissolved in it. Okay. No chemical change involved here. Okay. No chemical change. It doesn't mean that it is transforming this carbon dioxide to any other substance. No, no, no. Here the carbon dioxide get totally dissolved in the plasma part, and 7 to 10% of the plasma carbon dioxide is transported in this form only. Okay. Okay. So here you can see, this is the blood. This is the blood, and here you can see the RBC. Here you can see the different cells that is a part of the tissue. So CO2 is produced and CO2 is transported to the blood capillaries. Inside the blood capillaries, blood are there. So blood takes this CO2. Which part? Plasma, 7 to 10%. Now what happened to other parts? Let us see that. Second type of transportation. See, this is the major type of transportation that transport the carbon dioxide through the blood, right? Bicarbonate ion. 70% of it transported by this method. Now, main transport method, and actually it is called as main transport method because 70% of the carbon dioxide that is produced inside the tissue is transported by this mechanism only. Now, here CO2 reaches to the red blood cells. 7 to 10% get dissolved in plasma, but 70% reaches to the RBC cell, red blood cells. Now, what happened here to these red blood cells? Let us see that. Converted to HCO3 via carbonic anhydrase. Now, this is a very, very important enzyme, carbonic anhydrase. So, here you can see in the first diagram. Let us see in the first diagram. So, cell metabolism is there. It produces carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide passes to the blood in the blood capillaries, and this carbon dioxide moves inside the RBC. It moves inside the RBC. Now, here what happened? CO2 is there and H2O is there. CO2 and H2O, it get combined in the presence of carbonic anhydrase. In the presence of carbonic anhydrase. And it forms H2CO3. H2CO3. Now this H2CO3 is broken in HCO3 plus hydrogen ion. And this hydrogen ion is taken by the hemoglobin, because hemoglobin is a part of the RBC. It is present in the RBC only. So that hydrogen ion is taken by the hemoglobin. Now what is left here? HCO3 minus ion. HCO3 minus ion is transported out. It is transported out of the RBC, and equal amount of chlorine ion is taken inside it. Equal amount of chlorine ion is taken inside it. Right? So in this way, by the conversion in carbon dioxide into the bicarbonate ion, right, 70% of carbon dioxide is transported in this form. And this enzyme is very, very important. This reaction is reversible. Actually, this is shown by the one arrow, but it is a reversible reaction, right? So here you can see when it reaches to the pulmonary capillary. Now here you can see pulmonary capillary, it is written here. And what part is here? Alveolus. Means the same figure. Alveoli is there and blood capillaries running all over the alveoli. So here you can see what happened. The chloride ion is shifted outside and HCO3 is taken inside in the RBC. Right? Hemoglobin gives out hydrogen ion, which is it has already taken at the tissue point, at the region of tissue. So hydrogen ion is there, HCO3 minus ion is there. It joins as a H2CO3. It joins as H2CO3. Now, this is a reversible reaction in the presence of carbonic anhydrase. This H2CO3 is again broken down into carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide and water. So this carbon dioxide is expelled out from the RBC and this reaches to the CO2, reaches to the alveolar region through the concentration gradient, based on the concentration gradient. So in this way you can see the carbon dioxide is transported by the conversion it in a HCO3, right? This is very, very important. Now HCO3 moves to the plasma. Okay, once the HCO3 is formed, it is moved to the plasma and hydrogen ion binds to the hemoglobin. That we have already discussed here, right? Now, the next part, what happened? The another type of mechanism, that is the carbaminohemoglobin, formation of carbaminohemoglobin. Now, some carbon dioxide combined with the hemoglobin. It combined with the hemoglobin, right? So, CO2 can directly combine with the hemoglobin, and by combining, it form a compound that is called as carbaminohemoglobin, right? And that forms a reversible bond. This is a reversible bond. It can, when it reaches to this carbaminohemoglobin, when reaches to very close to the alveoli, it is broken down as a carbon dioxide and hemoglobin. And carbon dioxide is expelled out from the blood capillaries to the alveoli, right? So in this way, now here it is a reversible bond. It is not like that once the bond has been formed between the carbon dioxide and hemoglobin, it will not be broken. No, it is not like that. So it is a reversible bonds, right? So doesn't interfere with oxygen binding. It is not affecting any oxygen binding. Okay. Now, in our theory class, I have discussed with you that carbon monoxide, it also combined with the hemoglobin, right? But once it get combined with the hemoglobin, it will not get released. It is not a reversible process. The carbon monoxide will combine with it, and that hemoglobin will not be available for the oxygen or carbon dioxide transportation, because it has already been combined and it is not released out. So in that way, this carbon monoxide is very, very dangerous. And how people are taking the carbon dioxide? By smoking. And that is why it is always says that, right, smoking is injurious to health, because you are killing your hemoglobin. That hemoglobin is not available for the transportation and for carbon dioxide and oxygen, right? Okay, now let us take the question 5. Question 5: what will be the partial pressure of oxygen and partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the atmospheric air compared to those in the alveolar region? Okay, this question is coming from the NCERT section 14.4, and we are having some options. Let us see that. First, partial pressure of oxygen is lesser and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is higher. Second option, partial pressure of oxygen is higher and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is lesser. Third, partial pressure of oxygen is higher and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is also higher. Fourth, partial pressure of oxygen is lesser and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is also lesser. Okay, let us see the answer. So the second one is correct. Partial pressure of oxygen is higher in the alveolar region. See the question, alveolar region, and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is lesser. So comparison of the partial pressure in the atmosphere versus alveolar air. There is a comparison. What is the partial pressure in atmosphere and what it is in alveolar air? So oxygen, let us first talk about the oxygen. Atmospheric air. What is the partial pressure of oxygen in the atmospheric air? It is around 159 mmHg. 159 mmHg. That is in the case of atmospheric air. And see, it is what it is in alveolar air. PO2. When oxygen is present in the alveoli, it is having the partial pressure of oxygen around 104 mmHg. 104 mmHg. Higher in atmospheric air. So where the partial pressure of oxygen is higher? In the atmospheric air. In the atmospheric air. Now we will talk about the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, atmospheric air pressure. What is the atmospheric pressure here? It is, you can see, 0.3 mmHg in the air. 0.3 mmHg. This is the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the atmospheric air. And inside the alveoli, see the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. It is quite high, right? 40 mmHg. 40 mmHg. So what will happen? Higher in alveolar air. Oxygen is higher. Oxygen is higher in the partial pressure of oxygen is in the atmosphere, but for the carbon dioxide, it is higher in the alveolar region. So what will happen? Carbon dioxide will move from region of higher partial pressure to the region of lower partial pressure. So carbon dioxide move from alveoli to the outer atmosphere. But what will happen to the oxygen? the oxygen will move from the region of higher partial pressure to the lower partial pressure, right? So from the atmosphere, the oxygen will comes inside the alveoli region. In this way, the exchange of gases taking place in the alveoli and the atmosphere, right? So knowing this, why this question is important? Because by knowing the partial pressure, where the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high and where the oxygen is high, it is very important. In that way, you will be able to know how this partial pressure is helping in the exchange of gases. Now, next question. Explain the process of inspiration under the normal condition. Inspiration under the normal condition. This question is coming from the NCERT section 14.2. So, the diaphragm, how the inspiration start, that is the initiation of the inspiration. The diaphragm contract and flattens first of all. And why and how it is done? Let us see that first of all. So external intercostal muscles contract. What happened to the intercostal muscles? The intercostal muscles means the muscles that are present in between the ribs. In between the ribs, that is called as external intercostal muscles. It moves outward. It moves outward. And what happens to this diaphragm? It moves downward and become flat. Means diaphragm get contracted. Diaphragms get contracted. Rib cage moves upward and outward due to the contraction of the intercostal muscles, right? The rib cage moves upward and outward, and in that way it increases the volume of the rib cage, volume of the thorax, or you can say inside the rib cage, that whole volume get increased, right? Now with the help of diagram also you can see when the, so here you can see the ribs. These are the ribs. In between the ribs, there are some muscles are there. That is called as external intercostal muscles and internal intercostal muscles are there. But for moving this upward, there is an external intercostal muscles are responsible. And one more thing here, these arrow, what this arrow is showing, this is the diaphragm region. This is the diaphragm region. And when this diaphragm moves downward and this rib cage moves upward and outward, two arrows are there for upward and outward, and this is for downward. This whole thoracic cavity volume increases. So when volume increases, the pressure get decreased. The pressure get decreased, and when pressure get decreased, the air from the outer atmosphere move from region of higher pressure to the region of lower pressure. So this is just opposite. If the volume is increasing, then the pressure is decreasing. So here in the thoracic region, volume get increased and the pressure get decreased. So air from the atmosphere moves inside the lungs, and in this way your lungs get filled with the air, and that air is also having very important gas that is called oxygen, right? Now thoracic cavity expansion, how it is occurring? Volume of the thoracic cavity increases, and you all know that how it is increasing. You have to mention two things: external intercostal muscles and the downward movement of the diaphragm, right? So interthoracic pressure decreases, right? But inside the thorax the volume increases and pressure decreases. Now air flows. Next, what will happen? Air flow into the lungs. Air will start moving inside the lungs. Pressure gradient is created between the atmosphere and alveoli. What is this pressure gradient? Just now I told you that inside the lungs, the pressure decreases, but outside the atmosphere, the pressure is more, air is more. So from higher pressure to the lower pressure, the air will move inside the lungs. You can see these arrow, air entering inside the lung, right? So you have, when you will write this answer, you have to write the volume of the thorax get increased and pressure inside the thorax region get decreased, right? Because V is inversely proportional to the pressure. One is increasing, the pressure is decreasing. If volume is increasing, then pressure is decreasing. Inversely proportional, right? Lung expansion. There will be some lung expansion. Lung expand due to the negative interpleural pressure. You know what is pleural? What is pleura? That is the membrane that is covering the whole lungs. A membrane that is covering the lungs. Because you all know that there are different organ that is having their membranous protection. In the case of heart, there is pericardium, heart wall and pericardium. In between the heart and wall, membrane, pericardium, there is pericardial fluid. Similarly, in the case of lungs, there is a pleural membrane, and the wall of lung is there, pleural membrane is there. In between the lung and this pleura, there is pleural fluid. Again, it is protecting your lungs. It never makes the lungs dry. That is very, very important. And also, it minimizes the pressure when the pressure is exerted from the outside. This pleural fluid minimizes the pressure, right? So, the lung expands due to the negative interpleural pressure. And alveoli get filled with air. This is the final inspiration process. Lung expansion lead to the inspiration. Next question. How is respiration regulated? A very, very important question. Regulation of respiration. Let us see that. Neural control. Now, in this whole neural control, there is some center. The first one is the respiratory rhythm center. Where it is located? Very important. Located in the medulla region of the brain. You all know? Yes, medulla and pons. Very good. So, medulla region is the part of medulla oblongata. That is a rod-like structure that comes from the posterior. This is a part of the posterior brain, and it leads to the spinal cord. Right? It leads to the spinal cord, which is present inside the vertebral column. Now, this is primarily responsible for regulating respiratory rhythm. We are having a respiration rhythm, right? You inspire, then you expire. Again, you inspire, then expire. So, there is a rhythmic inspiration and expiration. As you have seen and you have read about heart, that there is a rhythmic contraction and relaxation. Similarly, our respiration process, breathing process is also in a rhythmic form. So this particular region, respiratory rhythm center, see the name rhythm center. This is regulating the respiratory rhythm. This is the function. So here you can see respiratory control center in the brainstem. So here, this is the medulla and this is the pons region. This round structure, that is the pons, and this is the medulla. Now, medulla is having the respiratory rhythm center. Here you can see the 2 points, the dorsal respiratory group and the ventral respiratory group. You can say that this respiratory center is divided into the 2 parts, the dorsal respiratory group or the ventral, or just you can say that this 2 part join together to form this respiratory rhythm center, right? Now, pneumotaxic center located in the pons region of the brain. Pneumotaxic center, it is having where it is located in the pons region, and in the figure you have seen where the pons, the round like a structure that is just above the medulla, right? So it modifies the function of the respiratory rhythm center. See, your respiration changes when you go to the very high altitude. At that time, you have to increase the rate of respiration because oxygen availability is very less. Very less at that time. So at that time, you have to breathe at the faster rate. So who is modifying the function of the respiratory rhythm center at that time? This pneumotaxic center. Pneumotaxic center do what? It judges whether the carbon dioxide rate is increasing around the pons. If it is increasing that, it means that carbon dioxide is accumulating in your body. So it increases this respiratory rate, right? Reduces the duration of inspiration and alter the respiratory rate. So your pneumotaxic center is responsible for the alteration of the respiratory rate. But your rhythmic respiratory center, which is present in the medulla part, it maintains the rhythmicity in the respiration. And this is pons 1, this is responsible for the altering according to the need, right? Now, chemical control, chemosensitive area. There are some chemosensitive area adjacent to the respiratory rhythm center. This chemosensitive area is there. What is the function of this chemosensitive area? It is activated by the increased carbon dioxide and hydrogen level. When the pH is increases, when the carbon dioxide is increases, these chemosensitive area give message to the respiratory rhythm center, signals the rhythm center to adjust the respiration for elimination of these substances, because carbon dioxide accumulation in the body is very harmful. So it is always checking whether the carbon dioxide concentration is increasing in the region of the chemosensitive area. It gives message. Okay, carbon dioxide is a normal rate. You can follow the respiration in the rhythmic rate. Now sudden it increases. Okay, the carbon dioxide is increases in the chemosensitive area. Now you have to alter your respiration. So in this way, this regulation of respiration is done by our two things, medulla oblongata and pons. Very important. Right? So here you can see the chemosensitive area, the carbon dioxide, hydrogen combined with water, H2O3, HCO3 is formed and hydrogen. So this hydrogen ion in this particular region, it is very sensitive formation of hydrogen, and it gives the idea that carbon dioxide is increasing here, right? So you have to need to change the rhythm of respiration. Peripheral chemoreceptors located in the aortic arch and carotid artery. Now these are also some of the peripheral chemoreceptors, not in this particular region of the brain, but yes, in the peripheral. So where it is aortic arch and carotid artery, detect change in the carbon dioxide and hydrogen ion concentration. Here also the same thing is occurring, that it is detecting the change, right? Send signal to the rhythm center for the corrective actions. Next question. What is the effect of partial pressure of carbon dioxide on oxygen transport? How the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is responsible for the oxygen transport? Let us see the answer. Binding of oxygen with hemoglobin. Yes, carbon, oxygen combined with the hemoglobin. So if PCO2 influences the binding affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. If you compare carbon dioxide and oxygen affinity with the hemoglobin, which is more? carbon dioxide is more efficient to get combined with the hemoglobin. Very important point. It is having the capacity to combine with hemoglobin more as compared to the oxygen, right? So high PCO2 reduces oxygen binding capacity. This is the Bohr effect. If the carbon dioxide concentration is more, it reduces the oxygen binding capacity, right? So low partial pressure of carbon dioxide enhances oxygen binding, right? If the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is less, then it can enhance the oxygen binding capacity. So in this way, it is affecting oxygen dissociation curve shift. So increased partial pressure of carbon dioxide, the curve to the right facilitating the oxygen unloading in the tissue. It happened at the tissue region, right? Carbon dioxide increases, right? And oxygen, unloading of oxygen occur at the tissue point. Now decreased PCO2 shift the curve to the left, right? It enhances the oxygen loading in the lungs. Tissue level oxygen uploading, where high partial pressure of carbon dioxide in tissue promote oxygen dissociation from the oxyhemoglobin, right? When the partial pressure of carbon dioxide at the tissue level is more, the oxygen which is present in the blood and in the form of oxyhemoglobin, it get dissociated and oxygen reaches to the tissue, and carbon dioxide which is present in the tissue reaches to the blood. So ensure efficient oxygen delivery to the metabolically active tissues. Now we will have some MCQs related to the our NCERT, right? NCERT based question number 1. Which part of the respiratory system in the primary site for gas exchange? This question is coming from the NCERT section 14.1.1. A. Trachea, B. Bronchi, C. Alveoli, and D. Larynx. Let us see the answer. Correct answer is alveoli. C. Alveoli are the tiny air sacs located at the end of the bronchioles in the lungs with extremely thin wall. Their walls are very, very thin. Only 1 cell thick, right? That is in the range of 1 mm. So they are surrounded by the dense network of capillaries. Blood capillaries are densely scattered over these alveoli region, creating an ideal environment for the gas exchange through the process of diffusion. And there, the large surface area, about 70 square meter, and thin membrane structure allow oxygen to efficiently pass from the air to the bloodstream. So the area, this 70 square meter, that is the large surface area exhibited by the lung. Through this area, the gaseous exchange is taking place inside our lungs. You can imagine how small the lung is and how it is working. Next question. What is the main function of hemoglobin in the blood? This question is coming from the NCERT section 14.3. A. Transporting carbon dioxide. B. Carrying oxygen. C. Fighting infections. D. Regulating blood pressure. Let us see the answer. So correct answer is B. Oxygen. Carrying oxygen. Hemoglobin is an iron containing protein found in the red blood cells that binds to the oxygen molecule in the lungs. Yes, it combines with the oxygen in the lung region. It transports oxygen from the lungs to the tissue and organ throughout the body. And it ensures that the cells receive the oxygen they need for the cellular respiration and energy production. Though it can transport the carbon dioxide also, but your body require oxygen, right? So here the main function of the hemoglobin is to carry out the carbon dioxide. But yes, This hemoglobin is also carrying the carbon dioxide, and it is helping to eliminate it out from our body, right? Each hemoglobin molecule can carry up 4 oxygen molecules, making it an extremely efficient oxygen transport system in the blood. Okay, next question is here. What is the term for the process of taking air into the lungs? NCERT section 14.1.1. Options: A, expiration; B, respiration; C, inhalation; D, ventilation. Process of taking air into the lungs. Let us see the answer. C, inhalation. C, inhalation. Inhalation, also called as inspiration. If it is written inspiration, then you must have opted very quickly that, okay, this is the correct answer. But sometimes it may be written as inhalation, right? So inhalation and inspiration are the same thing. So it is especially the process of drawing air into the lung through the nose or mouth. So during inhalation, the diaphragm contract and move downward, and intercostal muscles, especially the external intercostal muscle, contract and expand the rib cage. The rib cage can move upward and outward. So that create the negative air pressure inside the thorax region and helping the inspiration process, right? Okay, let us take the next question quickly. Which of the following is a respiratory disorder characterized by the destruction of alveolar walls? Here they are talking about the destruction of alveolar walls, right? Coming from the NCERT section 14.6. A, asthma; B, bronchitis; C, emphysema; and D, pneumonia. These are the disease that is related to the lungs only. Let us see the answer of this question. C, emphysema is the correct answer. Emphysema is a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Very, very chronic. Okay. It is pulmonary disease. That is the disease related to the lungs. Why it is chronic? Because alveoli means air sacs in the lungs are gradually destroyed. So once it is destroyed, it cannot be brought back, right? And you all know it means that the surface area that is available less when the alveoli region will be get destroyed for the gaseous exchange, right? So it creating hole in the lung tissue. This destruction of alveolar wall reduces the surface area available for the gas exchange and decreases the elasticity of the lungs, making it difficult to exhale completely. Other respiratory conditions like asthma, bronchitis or pneumonia, which primarily affect the airways, are cause inflammation. Next question. What happens to the diaphragm during inhalation? NCERT section 4.2. A, it relaxes and moves upward. B, it contracts and move upward. It relaxes and move downward, and it contracts and move downward. Let us see the answers. So it contracts and it moves downward, or it get flattens. It is taking a very flat shape, right? Otherwise it is a dome shape. So during inhalation, the diaphragm becomes dome shaped, muscles contract and flattens. It moves downward in the abdominal cavity. So this downward movement increases the volume of the thoracic, that chest cavity, creating a negative pressure within the lungs region. So the increased thoracic volume and the negative pressure causes air to rush into the lungs through the nose and mouth, similar to how a vacuum works. Okay, so this is all about today's session. Thank you very much for attending to today's session. We will meet again tomorrow. So till then, take care and goodbye.